Now, our last speaker has traveled the world and decided that Nova Scotia is the place for him. We all love where we come from, and we all understand the importance of tech, and I think our current speaker understands that more than any of us. Although he is new to the tech scene, he has an amazingly rich background, and I don't want anyone not to think he's experienced. He studied economics at Harvard and spent 10 years working on the stock market. He then traveled the world, opening an office for his company in India and traveling all throughout Asia, finally returning back to Scottsburn, Nova Scotia, to run a sheep farm that he now calls home. But ever restless, he continued to work, having run for parliament and always working to become a standing pillar of his community. Even now, he continues his involvement with the Green Party, working as a financial critic. Finally, he decided to come to UIT, where his burning passion for local farming and community economic development drove him to start his new company, BidSquid. I want everyone to give a big round of applause for David Hachey.
Hi. Thanks, Ben, for that great introduction, and thanks for the invitation to speak today. It's an honor to be able to offer some words on this very important topic at this very important conference with you, very important people. We've heard some powerful voices from local and future leaders. Hasn't that been great? We're richer for having them all. But now, I'd like to add my view as a slightly older outsider. I'd like to add my view as someone who travels 500 kilometers a week to participate in this program at UIT, because I have some faith that it will work, and I want to see if it does work. I'd like to add my view as someone who has talked to a lot of people on the campaign trail about economic development and the lack of opportunities in Atlantic Canada. I'd like to add my view as someone who has spent a lot of time thinking, from both the inside and the outside, about what Atlantic Canada needs to do to remain or regain our position as a place of opportunity for all. We know the future will be a lot different than the present. It always is, but the pace of change is accelerating. Jobs today are not changing from one generation to the next. Jobs are changing within generations. People are being rendered obsolete mid-career, not just at retirement. And traditional jobs are not just changing, they are disappearing. It's a struggle, especially for our regions historically intertwined with the more traditional industries and mindsets. Outmigration is relieving some of the pressure and redeploying human capital, but for those of us who believe we needn't give up, for those of us who believe we can preserve the economic viability of the places we love, for those of us who seek a better way, entrepreneurship, specifically technology, is our ray of hope. And the source of that ray of hope is tech education. We've heard of the struggle to stay in Sydney. We've heard of the need for more coding programming. Really, who we've heard from today represents a small percentage of the success stories. For every Andrew and Spencer and Bobby and Freddie and Riley and Ben, there are hundreds of young minds absolutely unsure of where their opportunities lie, if not in Alberta. We are scratching the tip of the iceberg of our potential. While I sympathize with the sentiments up here today that we need a next step for these voices, I would argue that what we really need is more people taking the first step. How can we do this? We need coding in our schools. We need good instructors making coding fun. We need coding for the kids who like art. We need coding for the kids who like to build physical things. Coding is not a subset of math. Coding is the language of the future. Coding is the future language of business. Coding is the future language of science, law, engineering, music, you name it. Coding is the future language of society. Coding is the language of the future. And take it from me if you don't want to believe the research, when you're seeing this language for the first time when you're 40, the brain just doesn't bend to the shape of it very readily. Kids learn languages quicker and easier than adults. We need to teach our kids this language. Even if we don't make them fluent, they need to see it. We're making progress, but not fast enough. I don't think there's an easier way to grow our economy and open doors for them than getting kids off on the right foot with exposure to technology. This will fill the classrooms of UIT and fill the startup pipelines with founders and workers. It will create clean jobs, high-quality jobs here in Cape Breton. What doesn't work is not teaching our kids to code. In 13 Ways to Kill Your Community, author Doug Griffith says that trying to keep our youth from ever leaving is a way to drive them permanently away. It's in the nature of young people to explore. Expending resources on bringing to Sydney every possible tech training they could ever want is, in my opinion, an inefficient use of resources. We need the youth of this region out in the world, getting a diversity of experiences and specialized educations. But then we want them to know that a healthy ecosystem exists that they can come back to, reunite with their friends and their values, and launch their great ideas or work for someone else who has one. I do think it's never too late to learn. Here I am, living proof of that conviction. But if you look around, it's just me. The doors of UIT are not being banged down with experienced visionaries like myself. Frankly, it's hard. I'm not the future. These guys are. But even more importantly, their hundreds of friends are the future. And they're not here. We need to demand coding in schools. We need to start early. We need to tell our school administrators. We need to tell our elected representatives. We need to start clubs. If we don't start our kids off on the right foot with the early exposure to the language they will need to make their dreams a reality, we are failing them and we are failing ourselves. Thank you.
I, for one, am moved. Does anyone else want to call up a local representative? Well, I thank everyone for attending the conference today. We've heard some really important opinions, been moved in various ways, and I think everyone should have at least a little bit more confidence in where we're going with tech education in the future. Before we finish, I want everyone to give all of our speakers and all of our panelists another big round of applause to show them how much we appreciate them. And I hope we've all had some thoughts provoked about where tech education is going and how we're going to get there. Thank you.